All right, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Daily Gooner Pod here on StreamYard, on Apple, other streaming platforms, wherever you're watching us across the internet. Joining you from the United States, I'm Raphael, and this week joining me from London, two members of our esteemed team over there. I want to welcome the regular, the originator, one of the founders of this pod, Sam. Welcome back, Sam.
Hello, mate. Hopefully I'll be able to make the whole podcast this week.
Yes, technical difficulties are all ironed out. And of course, joining us again, filling that third seat ably. He's a regular now. So let's see them in. MJ, welcome back, MJ.
Hello, thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, let's jump into it. A lot to discuss. Again, we've been celebrating wins. We don't have a win to talk about here, but on the other hand, we do not have a defeat to discuss. Arsenal went to St. Mary's, something a minefield of an opposing pitch, something we talked about on the last pod. They just don't perform well there, regardless of positions at the table. Disappointment. The first time this season in all competitions that they've come away with a draw. Sam, I guess glass half full, glass half empty. How do you look at this one?
I think that it was definitely a missed opportunity given the amount of chances that we had during the game. But we know we've had what's it now? One win in 11 after last week. So it's one that you can look at two ways. You can look at it still semi-positively to say, okay, we got a point, still leading the way by 2 points, but also you can see it's 2 points dropped. I think that is disappointing considering another day with a more competent referee potentially. That's an easy win in the bag. The less said about the referee, the better. Definitely had his Southampton shirt on underneath that referee's kit. But yeah, I think given our position where we are at the moment, if anybody who said after 11 games, you're 2 points clear at the top, would you be taking that? Everyone would be snatching their hands off. So in that aspect, I think that you've got to look at it in a more positive light. But the performance, as Gabriel said afterwards, Jesus, sorry, I think we need to take it up another level and then just be a bit more hungrier, be a bit more aggressive. So yeah, it's one of them ones. You can take it on the chin. You're going to get them throughout the season, but still leading the way. So happy with that in that respect.
MJ, good fortune with Arsenal this weekend, even with dropping the 2 points. You look at the table. They don't play in a vacuum. We talk about this regularly. Liverpool and Spurs went down to defeat, and Man U and Chelsea played to a draw. Thank you, Casemiro, for that injury time goal that dropped both of them and left none of those four clubs were able to gain ground on Arsenal last week. Only Man City gained 2 points. And of course, Arsenal the week before was enjoying their defeat to Liverpool. So it's kind of like, you went to it from 1 to 4, and then they come out of this with this mixture still a point ahead of where they were 2 weeks ago. So I guess, thankful for small favors. But a lot to discuss about this. We brought this up, and we'll get Sam in on this discussion. There's a lot to discuss. Fourth match in a row now, I think, where they've only scored one goal. And after moving, we thought, okay, with the first two, they had a terrible week on the road. They had to fly up and play a Europa League game on the road, and then they had to come back and play another game on the road. But, we've also talked about fatigue and rotation, and that Arteta has been very set on a set lineup. Are we seeing that kind of catching up with the club now? 14 matches, all competitions. Now he's done some rotation, but certainly in the Prem, almost a minimum rotation. Is that something that he needs to consider going forward?
Yeah, I think there is an element of trust still in the squad. I'm not sure if he's still fully convinced of the players coming in cover. So Vieira and Nketiah, I think when they came on against Southampton, they didn't have the impact that that they have had before in the past. So I'm not sure what was up with them, but I think you can tell that the fixture schedule is really catching up on the squad. I think the history was made that this is the most games this club's ever made in a single month. I'm not sure if that would be the same for other clubs, but definitely for us, I think that's a fact. And I think you can see it's really catching up on us. I think we started this month with Spurs, so we had 2 really intense games to start the month off, and then we've had away trips on the bounce with a couple of, I think maybe a home game in between. So I think we had PSV at home, but even in that game, I think the 1 goal there wasn't it. So I think it is catching up. The players that Mikel was trusting and Partey and the other guys, I think Odegaard is looking pretty good so far. He's still looking pretty fit at the moment, but the other guys in the second half, there seems to be a real physical energy drop. And I think it's just the schedule catching up. And I think if we can just power through the next few weeks before the World Cup, we can reset. And based on some of the things I've been looking at before the podcast, is we've got the fewest amount of starters in the World Cup. So we only have Tomiyasu, Partey, Saka to an extent if he does get preferred over Foden, and the other one was Matt Turner for USA. Everyone else, your Cities and Tottenhams, they'll have at least 6 to 7 starters. So it can be looked at as a break. I think the physical energies is really catching up on us. So the sooner we get to the World Cup, the better. But we've got to be able to maximize as many points as we can over the next few weeks. But I think the physical energy drop is really catching up on us. And it's just a bizarre circumstance, isn't it, this season? We've had the World Cup and then obviously the Queen's passing, which cancelled one of the weekend's games. So yeah, there's I think the squad's point of view, I think Mikel has his first 11 that he trusts, and I think we have this conversation every week where I do think there'll be any surprises coming in, and still no surprises. It's the same 11 that starts the week before, and maybe Tomiyasu coming in, which seems to be his tactical approach. So yeah, I think he doesn't quite believe in those other guys just yet to come in. But sooner or later, I think we're going to need them if we get unlucky with injuries. So that's where we're at the moment.
Well, let's talk about that. Might this weekend be that match? I don't want to jump the gun here and get into Nottingham Forest too fast. I want to stay on. Let's stay with the roster. We've been talking for a while about where can the rotation come, and we've seen one place he has been rotating a lot is at left back, where Tomiyasu has taken over. Again, the starts. Tierney is coming in late. We know Zinchenko's not available. I can also assume that's because I don't know if Tierney is 100% fit. You know, he did have a significant injury that he was rehabbing. Zinchenko's availability kind of let them do this slowly, but I think their hand is kind of forced there. But let's go to the front. Let's start up the top. Gabriel Jesus started off really well. We know there's been kind of a book built on him when you see them really going back to the Man United games where opposing center backs just mug him. You know, I think you've cited it in an article you wrote. He is the most fouled player. He was a couple of weeks ago. Judging on what I've seen, it would not surprise me if he remains the most fouled player in the Prem. His scoring touches kind of left him a little bit. He's had a couple of chances. Two matches ago, he had a golden chance, and he in the box and chipped it over the bar. Put one in the side netting this week. You know, where he had a small window, granted, but an opportunity. If you're Mikel, again, do you trust him and say, I need to play him so he breaks out? Or is this where you say, hey, you know what, we got Chelsea coming up in a week. Maybe this is the time to give Nketiah that start. Forrest is no longer in the bottom of the table, but he needs better production from the striker. You know, so the goals have dried up a bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think the other thing that could be playing into Mikel's plans is I think Jesus is the other player with a yellow card. He's a yellow card away from a suspension. So if he gets that against Forest, then he'll be out for the Chelsea game. So that could play, that could be a factor in who starts up top for us against Forest. But if we have that same conversation again about the surprise, maybe we do finally see Eddie Nketiah coming in against Forest. And I think that would make a lot of sense. Jesus has been he's been really taking some hits the last few weeks. He's had that head knock against Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
He had a tough time against Leeds. He couldn't trap the ball in the second half. The Leeds players themselves were going up another level in terms of their intensity. So he looks like he does need a bit of a break. Amazingly, he's still creating all these chances for himself. He's just got this amazing ability to create at least 2 chances where he's having to beat a player or win a duel or whatever it is. And he really should be on a couple of goals more than he already is. The amount of chances he has. But against Forest, yeah, I think so. I think we are going to see Eddie coming in because I think we would rather have Gabby Jesus fully ready for Chelsea, and if he gets suspended in that game, he's going to be unavailable for Wolves. So if there's a couple of pros and cons you want to weigh up there, you'd rather he was maybe not playing at all. Maybe he comes on the last 10 minutes, but Eddie, Saka, and Martinelli is my guess for against Forest, because we want to be able to bank the 3 points and keep up momentum.
Okay, as the forward three, you're seeing staying with those two and just changing the striker. That makes a lot of sense. Let's go to the back line though. Again, we can kind of take it unit by unit, but let's stay on this issue of yellow cards. You want the maximum, you want the best club for Chelsea, obviously. That's an away match. This is like the one match in this run that's left in the Prem that's at home. Now, granted, we'll get to Forest in a moment. They had a huge win this weekend over Liverpool. So maybe they're finding some confidence and some form. So, it's no assumption that this is 3 points, but at the same time, I think he's got a little trust in his back line. Is it Gabriel who's on the yellow card, who's one away?
Yeah.
Sam, we'll bring you back. We'll just bring you right back in. We were talking about changes that you have to make and consideration of A, fatigue, and B, the fact that a lot of players are on yellow cards and you don't want to risk losing them for the Chelsea match. And we were talking about Jesus at the top and that we might see Nketiah for that reason. We're just moving to the back line. Is there another Saliba, Gabriel, other players that he has to take that into account too? And are you confident enough in their depth to make a significant rotation for this match, being at home?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think realistically, you can bring Ben White back into centre back. You can also have Bobby Holding coming in. Given, well, this is probably going to come back to bite me during next week. Given it's Forest, we should have more than enough to cope with their front line. But I think realistically, if we start to get into a bit of a niggly game, I think Arteta has the subs there available to rotate these players out. The one that I would be looking at not starting is probably Gabriel, because he's a very emotional defender. And if they start being physical with him, then he's more than likely ready to pick up a yellow card. And with him being quite argumentative with referees at the moment, I'll probably drop him for that game, to be honest.
This is kind of a pocket rest. We're talking about this fact that, question one, I'm going to stay with you. We could talk about the midfield too, but how much of this is down to the manager, wanting to stay, trusting his starting 11, which has been very, very good for him. But we've seen certainly the last 4 matches in Europa as well, but the no shutouts, but the goals have gone wanting. The chances are there, but the finish is not. And how much of that would you put down to fatigue? And is in part one, just that, and then we'll just do that, and I'll do the follow up that I had with MJ.
Yeah, I think fatigue is always gonna play a factor, given this is a really unique season, and we are playing 3 games every 9 days or something like that. And I know that obviously you want to have enough rest and relaxation in between, try and get proper preparation, but unfortunately that's gone away in this aspect. So a lot of the training is recovery days, and then activation days. So what you might lose on the training field, you might do a medium term session rather than a intense session. But the games are always going to have a big draw, especially if you stick with the same winning 11. I think realistically, with the opponents that we've had, they've been of the tougher variety. So I think moving forward, barring Chelsea, I think might see a bit more rotation, especially for
Okay,
Zurich. I don't see Zurich being anywhere remotely near the not Zurich, sorry, PSV. I don't think that'll be anywhere near the Premier League starting 11.
Staying with that, and we're gonna go talk about the match. We haven't really talked about the match yet, but again, it folds into what we're doing. 3 matches coming up, MJ, and arguably this next week, as Sam said, these next 9 days really are until the World Cup, almost the season, because obviously they've got to rebound. This is the opportunity. It's Forest. Again, they're out of the relegation, but I think they're 17th. Or they're off the bottom, and I think they're still maybe 18th. They're still hovering around that. This is at home, a match you should win. There's no givens, obviously. And then PSV at their place, which won't be easy, but I think Arsenal can win the group with a draw. And doing that would mean they kind of can skip around it. As Sam was alluding to, they can, if they've won the group, those last 2 matches in the group stage that they still have to play, they can just empty the bench there and then know that they're not going to have to play a match in the round of 32. They do themselves a huge break. So it's, again, kind of, you got to almost burn the candle at both ends this week. And if you can make it through and get through Chelsea and somehow still be top of the league, maybe tied on points, maybe you're down on goals against City, but still at the top, through your group, it's kind of they can exhale here. It's so no relaxation. I mean, you said a little bit of tweaking, but I think everybody knows this is where they got to dig deep.
I think Mikel is telling the players, give me as much as you can over the next 10 to 15 days before the World Cup, and then we'll just recharge and reset when you guys are back. Obviously, a lot of players will have to change their mentality for the World Cup, for those that are starting, whether you're French, Portuguese, or an English player. But I think Mikel is going to do everything he can to get as much as he can in the next few weeks, get through PSV, get a draw, definitely minimum. I think we can probably win that, but I think PSV have got a pretty good record at home at the moment. Get through Forest, who look like they've found a team that they can really settle on. I think they were saying Steve Cooper, he's finally found a team that he can now sort of select. So they probably won't be easy, and they'll probably make it tough against us. But I think if we can just power through these next few weeks without any injuries, and it seems to be we're riding the luck with injuries at the moment, because guys like Jota, Diaz, Varane, they're all starting to pick up all these niggles at random times in random games now. I don't think we've got the same players still injured. I think Emil and Elneny and maybe Zinchenko coming back. Yeah, that's it. So I think if we can just get through these next few weeks, Chelsea will be the target to have as many players as possible. And that's where, if we can rest Jesus and Gabriel so they're not picking up another yellow card against Forest, then we'll have a pretty strong team against Chelsea. And we've got a good record at the Bridge, but Potter's team's looking pretty good at the moment. I think they won today. So just need to power through these next few weeks.
All right. Sam, good first half. Arsenal took the lead. Now, Arsenal had chances to, you talked about the refereeing chance to get a second goal after Xhaka's goal on a penalty the referee spurned. He may have reconsidered that one, but Arsenal had other chances too that they didn't put in the back of the net, and it cost them in the second half. Coming out of this, Ralph Hasenhüttl was saying, I made an adjustment. We had him on the ropes. It seems to be, and I think MJ posted a statistic. He might reference it when it comes to, but the production after halftime in the last couple of weeks has really gone down. It seems like they're maybe their gas gauge is low. How much of that is tactical? How much of that, we talked about fatigue, but is there something tactical? Is it where we 15 matches in where the inevitable point comes for every team during the season where opponents catch up to you, what you've been doing, what's working, and you have to make that first major adjustment?
Yeah, for me, I don't think that it's tactical. I'd say it's more what we've got in the gas tank, because you see Arteta on the sideline second half really saying to the boys, "Come on, give me more," and they look like they were out on their feet. Um, you'd expect players to come in and give you that extra bounce. Um, yeah, I just think it was a bad day at the office. Especially second half. Um, I think with Jesus as well in the first half, I think that he just needs that goal now to get that confidence back, because I think once that's back, he'll start banging goals in again. But at the moment, it's just not working out for him. But it's as we said, we've got a young team. We're gonna have some games where uh, things don't always go our way, and we need to grind it out and we need to battle. And sometimes that's not necessarily 3 points; it's a draw. As disappointing as it can be for fans, it's actually pleasing to see, because in seasons gone by, that might be no points. So, I think I'd rather be more positive about it. I think it's a point gained rather than two lost. So yeah, I just think in terms of the first half, I think that we need to be more clinical, and this is something that we said previously. We can't be clinical. That's going to be something that comes with this team, because there's multiple chances within this game, right across the front, where we could have sealed this game and put it away early doors. But it wasn't meant to be. But yeah, I think second half, given how we are and how unique the season is, we just run out a bit.
Okay, so MJ, let's stay with this one more time. You've talked about that. Let's address the adjustment. I'll let you have a pick at that. Do you think that this is there is something tactical, or is this Hasenhüttl just being very happy about getting the point?
Yeah, I think so. I think he said in his quote, didn't he, that he made a small little tweak to how he's going to approach us in the second half. And at the same time, it's kind of like a mirror game to the Leeds game, where the other team, they went up another level and we just dropped down one gear. And in this case, it looked like we were trying to win the game in the first half with the chances that we had. Win the game in the first half, and then maybe we can relax and bring some players on. But it just seems to be that it just couldn't find the net in the first 45 minutes. And we just didn't have enough going for us in the second half. So Tomiyasu starting is, part of the approach. I think the debate that I've just seen recently was about Tomiyasu and Tierney, but there was a really good comment that I saw about the main purpose of Tomiyasu starting is for the benefit of Granit Xhaka and Martinelli. If you have Tierney coming in, maybe Granit Xhaka doesn't score that goal in the box against Southampton. Who knows? Yeah, it's against Forest. There'll be some comfort that there's no travel days involved in that. It's just going to be down the road for us. So there may be some relief from that. I think in a way, having a draw, you can look at it as in a positive spin. You could, the players will feel that they don't need to be perfect all the time. They've now got out of the system, which in this same fixture last season, we lost. And maybe that didn't help us along the way to get to top four. But in this case, you can look at it as a positive. If you're not going to play well, then come away with something. And I think if the game went on for another 15 minutes, maybe Southampton punish us for a mistake or whatever, but we won't be able to win them all. And a point at Southampton, considering our record there, is pretty positive. But I was more annoyed at the time, reactionary, because you want to win every game, but we just have to settle for it and bounce back against Forest. Everything's going to be fine.
All right, so snap analysis, just quick one line, one word, because we're all part of this. So is the our task just to avoid overreacting to this? Because again, as Sam was saying at the beginning, we knew these days were going to happen.
Yeah, don't overreact. We're fine. We're doing well. We said earlier, if you were offered 9 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss at the start of the season, and you were going to predict where we were in the table with that record, you're probably looking at second or third with that type of record if you're considering Liverpool and Chelsea. Yeah, sorry, Liverpool and City are going to have a good season, but we're first, so everything's all well. If you're really deeping it, then you're, as we are today, then you're looking at maybe some tired legs, but one game at a time, get to the World Cup and reset. So all is well.
Sam, is that part is our task? The team's got a task, but we've got a task too. Should we just take a deep breath and move on?
Yeah, exactly that. It's done. There's nothing that we can do about it, and we're still top of the league. So I don't know what more people want from us, but yeah, I think as a fan base, we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves and just be humble and a bit more grounded, and just think, as we said on the pod already, top of the league, we'd take that form going if that was offered at the start of the season. So
okay, well, let's talk about. There's a game, the next match, which is coming up in 2 days. They go to Holland. They play PSV Eindhoven. Sam, I'll stay with you. Again, they need a draw. They've won their 3 matches. They're a game behind everybody else, but drawing, really it's them and PSV for the top spot. So they've beaten them once. Get a draw on them there. I think you kind of lock them out. I may be wrong. I haven't looked at how many points PSV has, but it seems that Arsenal can kind of take that, bank that group. How much luxury does Mikel have to rotate, given that this was a tough match at home, 1-0, late goal? What do you see happening this week?
Yeah, look, we know it's going to be a tough game. We know that they're got a really good home record as well, but a bit like Glint the other week, we can go there, snatch away their home record. So in terms of luxury and rotation, I think we've got enough if we can do like Vieira for Odegaard, Nketiah for Jesus, Marquinhos for Saka. Give the main bods a rest, but still have them on the bench for, say, the last 20-25 minutes. I think that given how we are able to play, we've got more than enough for them. Van Nistelrooy said that they started off too deep, and I think that was because we really impressed our game on them, and where they couldn't get out, that's partly because the way that we set up, we hemmed them in, we suffocated them, and I think if we can do that again, I think that we will be able to nick this game 1 or 2-0. But yeah, I think that we need to make some rotation because we can't keep trotting out the same first 11, given the games that we've played already.
All right, MJ, would you make other changes? I guess it would be remiss if we didn't talk about Matt Turner, who seems to be improving in these matches. There was a lot of panic about him early on because he struggled a little bit, but he seems to be settling into the rotation keeper spot.
Yeah, he's done really well. He's, I think if you see all the videos that the club's posting, he's nearly in a lot of videos. I think his personality and his character it's really warm to the squad. So from that sense, he's settling in off the pitch. So I think all of that stuff does help when he's on the pitch. And he's slowly improving his game. I think I have seen before, he's really highly rated in the US, I think, from the fans that followed him. Who was he part of? I can't remember the club he was part of.
New England.
England. So I've seen some comments that they really, he could be, he's going to be around for a while. And I think he's maybe the number 1 goalie for US. I imagine he's starting quite a lot.
He has been, yes.
So he's done really well so far, and I'd expect him to be playing all of the remaining group games in the Europa League. Just having a look at the table now, so PSV are 7 points and we're 12. So if we've got these next few weeks in mind, I wouldn't be surprised if nearly all of the key players are completely rested and don't travel with the squad at all. So they're not having to jump on the plane and lose sleep and whatever. And this is kind of like a gimme. Because if we were hypothetically going to lose this game, PSV will be on 10 and we'll be on 12. So we still have that home game to Zurich. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of players rested and not gone at all. So I think that's been part of the whole fatigue issue is Partey, Saka, Odegaard, all these guys have been still going with the squads. But one of them start, the others don't, but then they still come on the last 10, 15 minutes. So if, say, Partey and Saka don't go till this to Holland, then that's the rest they get there with Chelsea and Nottingham Forest in mind. It would be really interesting to see what team we put out against PSV, but Matt Turner will definitely start, I think.
All right. Anything? I mean, Sam, you've already kind of sized up PSV. Let's talk though about Sambi Lukonga. He's obviously going to. I assume he's going to play in that a big role this weekend. I don't know if he's going to start for Xhaka, but I expect to see him get significant minutes and give Xhaka a spell at some point in that match. But some misgivings on his part, or I guess I don't want to say regrets, but a little disappointment, let's say, in his lack of playing time, caused a furor, obviously, in the social media world. But I think, given what was said about this young man when he came to the club, what was said about him in the preseason, that he's being looked at maybe as a 6, as an 8, it seems like he's a little unsure of where he stands and where his future lies. Not necessarily not just with the club, but as a member of the club.
Yeah, I've been speaking to Ryan about this, about Sambi. I think I posed a question online saying, is Sambi Lukonga the right player but at the wrong time? Because given how we've been playing, he's not going to be in the starting 11, and then obviously you get the rotational games, so cup games, Europa League, where he has been starting. He hasn't exactly pulled up trees, but he's been solid and consistent in what he does. I think that the way that he would expect his development to happen, in that interview, he said that he was disappointed that he hasn't started more games, but also he would rather spend 20 minutes on the pitch at Arsenal than rather than getting consistent game time anywhere else, as he views that as better for his development. Whilst I commend that, I think that we're in a position now where we're going to be challenging for titles, going to be challenging for top 4 and major honours. I think that we need a squad of ready-made now. And if your builders and up and coming, because Sambi's what now, 22, I want to say. He's still fairly young, but he is also getting into that bracket where you would expect players to be kicking on, really imposing themselves in games. I think that he does the simple stuff well. He gets the ball moving, he can drive, and he's a ball carrier in midfield, which you need. But on the flip side of that, I do think that he can be lazy in his passing, and he can be lazy in covering the ground, coming back sometimes. And his positional sense is, I would say, about 15 to 20% off. But that's to be expected given his age. But I think as a club and as we're moving forward, I think that we need somebody like, coincidentally, Sangari from PSV, somebody that has that aura, somebody that's got that big ready now player that can come in, rotate with Partey, and you wouldn't see any drop in quality. It'll be a complete like for like. I think what hasn't helped with Sambi is that where is that 6 and 8 debate. Sometimes he's playing as an 8, sometimes he's as a 6, and he needs that continuity and really nail down where he wants to play. I don't think that he's that decided on that either. Yeah, but it's a difficult one with Sam because I really like him as a player, but I just think it's the wrong time for him at Arsenal Football Club. If he was at this club, say 2, maybe 3 years ago, then yeah, perfect. But where we are right now, I'm not too sure.
All right. Interesting point Sam brings up. I just looked him up while he was going through his game. He just turned 23, MJ. And that makes him, among all the young core, actually one of the older young players. If you consider Martinelli, Saka, guys of that sort, even Odegaard, and where he is. And then you think of all his peers who are either starting or getting major minutes. Seems that's going to present a very difficult decision for the club.
Yeah, it's funny how when you look at 23 years old, you think it's a bit older than what we've been used to in the last couple of years. I think if you look back on pre-season, the only thing that's probably changed, the pre-season was a really good sign of the team, the condition of the squad, the players that came in and started those games against Chelsea and Everton and whatnot. And not a lot has changed from pre-season to now in terms of the starting players, the system and everything. But I guess the only thing that's changed is Sambi's role from then till now. And it's probably just out of circumstance that his plans for Sambi's plans this year has maybe just slightly adjusted. With El Neni getting injured, so that's Partey's cover gone. Xhaka has had a really good season, so he's completely undroppable. So any door to take that role was probably closed quite early on in the season. So Sambi, his minutes have all come in Partey's role. So if he comes in as a sub, it's for Partey. If he starts the game, it's Partey's role. And I think pre-season, I'm pretty sure he was playing higher up, or at least there were signs that he was playing higher up. And he scored a goal at the end of a lovely move against Chelsea. So that idea that maybe Mikel had, even Mikel was commented on him playing higher up, that's maybe had to take a step back just for the needs of the team. And he's understandably, he's obviously going to be frustrated with the lack of minutes. But if the plan was still ideal and the plan was still on track, maybe the noises from his camp wouldn't be coming out the way it is, because he's more excited about his role in his development. But because that's taken a step back, maybe those noises are coming out and all this talk about whether staying at Arsenal was the best move for him. But it is a case of there's almost, out of all the signings that Mikel's made under this regime, he's probably the one that's needs more time, a bit more care. Maybe he is here at the wrong time. But for him, I would probably say, if we're in a scenario where we brought someone in, let's say we've got, let's just say we brought in Danilo, or sorry, not Danilo, someone a bit more, let's just say Tielemans for this scenario, then his minutes are slowly being reduced. There's hardly any game time coming in, so a loan would be a sensible decision for him. You just look at the guys like Balogun, he's relishing the opportunities, and that sort of thing you only appreciate at the end of the loan spell. So maybe he's not seen that quite yet, and he doesn't see the benefit of that maybe next season. But he's a little bit unlucky with the circumstances of the team. But yeah, he's having to play to the needs of the team for the moment. Well,
the man is going to make his decision. Just had a decision rendered upon him. Sam, just before we came on, news breaking that Edu has received a contract extension. We didn't talk much about last week news that Gabriel Magalhaes, the deep line of the three Gabriels on this club, had gotten his extension. Of course, everybody's fingers crossed, hoping that that's just the first of a flood of extensions, that players like Saka and Martinelli are soon to follow, Saliba. But it seems that the higher ups at KSE are satisfied with the progress that Edu has made, not only in bringing in talent, but getting bad contracts out the door. And he's won himself more time to continue his project, his and Mikel's project.
Yeah, I think that's very good news for us. I wasn't sold on Edu a couple of seasons ago. But given the work that he's done in terms of getting the contracts out the door, I think the eye opener for a lot of fans of how well Edu works behind the scenes was through the All or Nothing series. Gave an insight into how he works. I think as well, his work with getting Aubameyang out the door, that really was an eye opener for a lot of people. I think that how we've brought players in, how well we done, got them in early this season, and the type of targets that we are going after is along the vision. And obviously, him and Mikel seem to have that synergy together, which is really pleasing to see. And if this is just the start of the project, so to speak, then I think, as Josh said, it's time to be excited. And given how you've spoken about KSC investing mid-season in group chats that we've been in, I believe moving forward, we're in for a really good period. And with him and Mikel, they've built a team that is capable of rising to challenge for top honours. And also with the team getting older every year, keeping them in, it will then next thing for Edu, I would say, is bringing money in for players that are or not are seen as expendable in the squad to replace with bigger and better. So yeah, I think that it's deserved. I think given the journey that we're on, it makes sense. It's a positive news story around the club, and it's something that the club will look to build upon. And given that there were multiple big clubs looking at Edu, I think some of them in Italy as well. It's good news for the club to fend off that interest and keep him here.
And to follow on that, MJ, I think you brought it up last week that he was being eyed. That made the news. We didn't get to talk about it in the pod last week, but he was being eyed by other clubs, probably some here in the Prem. So it's continuity. We talked about how important this window is. I think with Edu now having that bit of personal business tucked away, he can now focus full attention, certainly on the January window. I mean, we're still a ways away from that. We want to see where they are when this World Cup window opens in about 2.5 weeks, but it's coming up fast, and he needs to focus all his energy. This next 2 months are going to be very, very important for this club.
Yeah, I think what we said last week, I think the January, if we are in a title race, which we are in a race now until we're not, but if we get to January and think, we've got a really good opportunity here to go all the way, then January will probably define and it will define a lot for us in terms of the squad depth and whether we can believe in a title race towards the end in March, sort of late April, May time. I think the season is finishing a couple of weeks later than usual, but good news that Edu is staying. The nucleus off the pitch is the consistency and the continuity of the guys that run the team and the squad behind the scenes. I think that's something that the United fans always used to complain about, is they don't have the right people upstairs or whatever, and that's why the success on the pitch isn't resulting in that. But we can see slowly that the results are coming. So first of all, that's really positive news from that point of view. I do imagine there will be some activity for January. I would be surprised if we didn't sign anyone, because I think last season we had no incomings and for whatever reason we couldn't do anything there. But whatever work we did towards the end of the last window in the summer, you'd imagine that we would go back in with fresh beers or whatever agreements that we have. Maybe Danilo comes in from Brazil, who knows? But he's got a key couple of months coming up for him. And I'd imagine he's already had a couple of discussions with certain players if we can get someone in. But January will define the title race for us, I think, especially for cover Partey, especially.
All right, Sam, we've talked about PSV. Let's go to the next Prem match coming up this Sunday at home. Last home match before the World Cup break. Nottingham Forest comes in. Again, they've been sitting bottom of the table, and lo and behold, the week before they play us, they knock off Liverpool. That's got to get everybody's attention. How much Obviously, that's going to give them a shot of adrenaline, a shot of confidence. But should that change anything of our expectations of this match?
No. It's essentially from our point of view, we need to go down. We need to go to our ground, put down a marker, and come out with a really dominant performance. Watching that game versus Liverpool, I do feel Forest were very, very lucky to come away with a 1-0 there. I think Liverpool on another day probably win three or four, given the chances that they had and the clear-cut chances that they had as well. Forest do offer up some very clear-cut chances for opposition. Now, from my point of view, it was pleasing to see them get the win over Liverpool, but given they're away from home, the form isn't the greatest. And as I say, if they're giving up opportunities, I think this is the game where Jesus finds his feet again, finds the back of the net, and we're laughing. But I think given how we've struggled for goals in the last couple of weeks, I wouldn't go too optimistic this week. I'd say probably a 2-0. But I think we've definitely got more than enough to see these off.
All right, MJ. Sam tucked a prediction in there at the end. We kind of jumped around, but what do you see? Again, we've talked about fatigue. We talked about rotation. We talked at the top that this is a match maybe where Nketiah starts. Sam sounds of the opinion that Jesus should get a chance to snap out of it. That maybe this is an opportunity for him to bag a couple of goals and build up his confidence prior to Chelsea. It's another way of thinking about it. Be good to have him kind of, in a just a buoyant frame of mind, given the importance of that match. How do you see it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I didn't think of it like that. I think he does need a goal to get his confidence back up. If you're looking at the Jesus of Man City, whenever he's had a good patch of form or he's getting a lot of minutes under his belt, he's taken out the team and he hasn't got the opportunity to keep his goal scoring run going. But he's now in a squad where he is the main man and he's got the opportunity to have nearly every game to get his form back in or keep his form going. So if he does start on Saturday, I believe it's on Saturday, then I do expect him to maybe bag a couple, keep him fresh. If we can win the game early, then we take him off so he doesn't get that yellow card against Chelsea, because I'd rather we saved him for Chelsea. I think that's the priority here, to not lose at Chelsea. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but any win against the top sides would be a huge statement amongst our rivals. The goalposts keep moving every week. We've beaten Spurs, we've beaten Liverpool. But the new thing that I've heard is they're all at home. So
and one on the road.
There you go. So we need one on the road if possible. And at Chelsea, we look pretty comfortable. I think their pitch is smaller, so it does suit our gameplay a little bit more. And I think that's why we've done quite well with that ground, because it's kind of like the, I don't know aspect-wise whether it was similar to Highbury, and maybe that's the DNA of our style there. But if he does start, let's see if we can win the game early. Let's see if we can get his confidence going, and let's take him off so he doesn't get booked, because he's been picking up these bookings a lot, hasn't he?
So okay, we got a good question, a good comment that leads to a question. We'll bring from Lee Meadows, and we're going to bring Lee. We're going to bring you in on this. Sam seems to be of the opinion that Jesus should start. MJ, you're of the. It sounds like you've kind of come around to that way of thinking that Jesus should start. I'm gonna put my two. And Lee, who do you want? Your comment is a quick start is essential. To that quick start, who do you start at striker? If you can give us another comment. I'm gonna stick with MJ's original position. I do think, given the abuse that Jesus has taken and the necessity of having him there and the risk of losing him for Chelsea, I'd give Nketiah a start this week. I do think Arsenal's capable of beating Forest at home with Nketiah up top. And I also think Nketiah, though he didn't have the best game this weekend, has played well when he's been given the chance. And I think that's a guy who probably, like we talked about Lakanga, but I think Nketiah's a guy who's probably looking around saying, hey, this is match 15. I think I deserve a start. I haven't had a start yet.
I think so.
Gentlemen, what do you think?
I think Eddie.
You gonna stick in with it?
Yeah, I'm gonna still stick with Eddie. I think he's probably been promised some game time, whether it's not just the subs. So he's probably going to get a home game. And if he's going to get a home game, this is probably the one because it benefits in two ways. There is Eddie's confidence for him believing that he made the right decision in staying. That's good for him, but also Jesus gets that rest as well. Yeah, Eddie for me. It works in a lot of ways, but if Jesus does start, then that's all good as well, as long as he doesn't get that yellow card.
All right. And Lee has come back. He wants Jesus starting on Sunday. Eddie on Thursday. I think we all agree Eddie's going to play on Thursday. Eddie's going to start on Thursday. He's probably going to play 90 minutes on Thursday. Sam, you already said 2-0. Lee, feel free to kick in a prediction. MJ, what do you say?
2-0. I was going to say 2-0.
For Sunday. For Sunday, let me be clear.
Yes, 2-0 Sunday. We've been going through a patch of 1-0s. Before that was 3s, wasn't it? So we are now going to start a patch of 2s. And I don't know in what way that will be, but it's going to be 2s.
Okay, that's a popular prediction. That was going to be mine, but since I don't want to be a bandwagon follower, I will jump back to the 3. I will say 3-0. I mean, maybe I'm overly optimistic, but if Lee can get us his prediction, we'll read that one out aloud. Gentlemen, he says 3 as well. Okay, we're going to be on the optimist side. Check back with us, Lee, and see which one of us, which two of us were the more accurate ones when we come back next week. All right, Edu. Obviously, we know matches, fatigue, everything else. Any final words from either of you? Concerns, reason for optimism, something we haven't discussed that's caught your attention that needs to be mentioned before we sign off. Sam?
Not from me, mate. I think we've covered.
Okay.
One thing that I would be looking for over the next week and 2 weeks, maybe, is the extension of Saka. I think that's going to be very, very close, given that they're saying that they're
word
in
of that,
advanced
Right.
talks. So I think if it's advanced talks, when was it? Back end of last week, I could see it being signed and done within the next 2 weeks, to be honest.
And speaking of something going into the Chelsea match that could give the squad a real jolt, MJ, I think an announcement like that would be just fantastic.
Yeah,
not just for the player, but for his teammates.
I think we seem to be really good at timing these announcements when it comes to good news. So if there is an intentional time when it's going to come out, if I was to predict, actually, I'd probably be thinking just before the World Cup sometime. I don't see that going I can't see that going into December. I think we would know by then if he's extended, but I think it's probably done at this stage. The headlines tend to follow after the fact these days. So let's say before the World Cup.
Okay. Let me put a twist on this. All right. Because again, Gabriel, the defender, the center back, has got his extension, and you just got his extension. We know they're talking to Martinelli. We know they're talking to Saliba. And Saka is, I think, Sam, you have said it for the longest time. You think that would be the first of those 3 because that's the young core. Smith Rowe in that. Well, he's kind of become the forgotten man with his injury. But here's kind of the final prediction, because MJ says, okay, I think we'll announce Saka before the World Cup. Whenever it happens, especially if it's towards the end of this run of these next 4 matches, do you think they'll dribble them out one at a time? Or do you think they'll do the Wenger style, let's have a table and have all 3 of them, if we can pull it off, this mega that they could do during the window, or like, look, all these young kids, our core is locked up. They've done that before, not in the Arteta Edu era, but might they pull a stunt, a page from the recent past? How do you think they'll play this game? MJ, I'll let you go first. I'm going to give Sam the final word this week.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd absolutely love if everyone's done and then we get them on a table and bigger. The marketing guys at Arsenal, they're very good at knowing what hits and what lands with the fan base and the timelines. So something like that would not surprise me at all, and that would be amazing. And can you imagine the comparison photos with Ramsey, Wilshere, and all
Right.
those guys?
Walcott and all those, right? But I to add to that, I think this would go if they pulled it off, if they're able to pull it off. If it, or you might be working on it right now, for all we know. That would be. I mean, you said within the fan base would go mental, but I just think that would send shockwaves through the entire football community because these are players who are eyed. We keep seeing Sam and Lee. Thank you for your comment. He wants to put Smith Rowe in that into this as well, but. We've seen rumors that Chelsea is watching Saka to see what Arsenal does. Obviously, he's got to be the next one from a chest beating like get off, he's ours. Who do you think you are? We're better than you now. Kind of that the evolution of the squad. London is red, London is blue, whatever. But I would think showing that intent with these young players, all of whom were named those three were named in the. I think the Athletic put out recently the 25 best players under 21 or 22, and those three guys were all there. And I think Arsenal was the only team with three. That's quite a statement of intent, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and especially if you'd imagine Saka's one of the faces or the main face of the club. We say that he's staying with us, he's ours, then anyone that isn't part of the club, so you're looking at European talents, they will look at us and the statements that we've made saying, maybe I want to be part of that journey. The players, the golden boys and all the star boys and whatever, they want to come. It looks a bit more attractive, doesn't it? If you see Saka's extended, then you see Martinelli, who looks positive as well. Saliba, I'm still confident. I think we've had some murmurs that he is pretty close, considering what's been coming out recently, but he's probably a lot closer than it looks. But the Saka one would be a huge statement, like all of them would be. And I do see all of them happening one by one.
Whether they do it one at a time, whether they can do it as a cluster. I'm going to give you the final word, but I think MJ touches on something very important, that maybe the next phase for Adieu, if he can pull this off sometime within the January window, and that might be the target as for going out for a target, is getting his young star core locked up. Is that sends the beacon, hey, this is going to be the place, young starlet in Europe somewhere, South America somewhere. Come here. Come join us.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Just to touch on the signings, I do believe they'll be done individually within their own right because they're equally as big as each other. And I think if you can do one massive group contract extensions, or you can do it in 3 hits across, say, 3 weeks, and that's one good news after another, and then that just gets everybody on a high moving into the World Cup.
Good. Presents to unwrap during the Christmas season for the fans, right?
Yeah.
Good point.
And given how I can't remember who it was for, but one of the signings in the summer, the first letter of the Arsenal Post across the day spelled out that person's name. So we know how our
they have fun with
team,
that.
They can be
a
annoying,
lot of fun with that.
very annoying, but also they know how to tease things along. But yeah, I think given how we're nailing down our most promising and also the project that we've got going on here, I think that we are coming back into the mega league, signaling that we're back, and this is the place to be. And also being in London gives it a massive backing.
All right, so it looks like we have come to the end of an hour. You just get started and go and go and go and go. It's seems like we can't, and then we do, then we have to stop because there's always so much more to be said about Arsenal Football Club, especially this season. Thank you all. Thank you to Lee for coming in with his great comments and suggestions. His 2 cents on things. Obviously, thanks to my colleagues in London, to Sam, to MJ. I'm Raphael signing off. But before I do, just check us out. We have our website at dailygooner.com, thedailygooner.com. You see our Twitter handles here, and then we are on Twitter at dailygooner. Is it .pod or just pod? Just Daily Gooner Pod. There's no dot. This is Twitter. Mix my medium all the time. But anyway, thank you again. Check us out. Follow us, on the site individually. Comments are welcome. Questions are welcome. Your exuberance is always appreciated. For the gents in London, for me in the States, I want to bid you all a good night.